Hi again. This is Lana, a carny girl. And here I am once again, and I'm so excited to be on this carnivore lifestyle choice journey. I call this episode Doctor and Witch Doctor. So I was born and raised in South Africa, born in a small town called Benoni, and lived from 9 years old to 31 years old in Johannesburg, and then immigrated to the United States, in fact, to Miami, Florida. And my dad was a doctor. He was called a GP, a general practitioner. And if you can imagine, he started practicing medicine in the 1930s. And you can try and think about what South Africa was like in those times. The big riots and so on hadn't started yet then, but the apartheid system was definitely rampant at that time. And we call it apartheid, but most people say apartheid. So for me, I grew up on a predominantly meat diet. And we used to have what we call braais, which are barbecues on the weekend, probably at least 2 days, 3 days of the week. We'd have steak and chops and lamb chops and boerewors, which is translated from Afrikaans into farmers' sausage. All of those were on the grill. And it was yummy and wonderful. So we also had this product and have this product, which is, I think, the South African major thing to eat, which is biltong, B-I-L-T-O-N-G. And I'll bring some to one of my next sessions. But what I want to talk about is my dad, because my father was very unique and was a person who was way before his time. He used to go out into what was called the locations, and he tended to the Black population strictly. And so he'd have calls at night and go out at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, or come back at that time. And he would treat everything from infectious diseases to gang warfare, their wounds, to helping a baby being born, or a broken leg being set, and so on. I mean, he did everything. That's what GPs did. But what he did, which was so unique, was my dad partnered up with a witch doctor as his actual partner. And what was amazing about that was that his population that he tended to really respected both of them more, because they had this wonderful friendship and partnership where they were both more validated, if you will. And my dad was more respected as a foreign doctor, and the witch doctor people were very happy with that. And it gave more credibility to both the witch doctor working with an English doctor, they called it, or the other way around. My dad also had the credibility with these people in terms of his witch doctor partner and friend. He also used to tell me, and this was when I was very young, eat as many eggs as you want. And the current thinking at the time was eggs are really bad for you, really bad for your cholesterol. Just, stay away from them. But we still had eggs in the family, but maybe we'd eat it, like a couple of eggs once a week or something like that on a Sunday. And I thought that was rather interesting because I have had a cholesterol situation, if you will, since I had my first cholesterol test in my 30s. My dad was my doctor, and I never had any other doctor except a gynecologist, obstetrician, when I had my two little girls. But he always used to say, "Oh, don't worry, it'll heal. Don't worry, it'll heal." This was his philosophy. It just takes a little time. Just be patient. And what he, I had this first test when I was had my aerobic studio on Key Biscayne in the 80s, and I used to go to a lot of health fairs, and at all the health fairs, they had these cholesterol tests. So I had my cholesterol done, and the woman who was there, the first one that tested me, said, "I can't give you any numbers because your cholesterol's off the roof." I couldn't even see it. Went beyond the little machine that whatever they were doing with the blood, and it's way over 300 the total, and we can't break it down and tell you LDL and HDL. And I said, okay, whatever. My dad told me never to worry about cholesterol. So he was, like I say, I'm 78, and this was when I was 31. That's a long time ago for a doctor to be in that mindset, because it was starting to happen where people were very, aware of their cholesterols needing to be lowered. So living and being raised and living in South Africa was such a blessing, because I was so surrounded by nature, by animals, seeing lots and lots of lions in the different safaris that I've been on, and lots of lions killing other animals, what we used to call it kill. And so I've always had an affinity to lions, because one of my dad's patients gave him to bring back to his children a lion cub for a week. And I was about 7 at the time. My one brother was 12, the other was 19. And I was the one that was looking after the little cub. And so it's like a full circle for me in a way, because now I've come back to being connected to carnivore and to lions and to doctors. And it's just been a wonderful circle of life for me. And I am excited to celebrate my dad, because he died in 1980. My mother, on the other hand, lived till she was 102 years old. She emigrated to the United States from South Africa when she was 90, believe it or not. And she had a fall on her 90th birthday. And with that fall, she started to develop Alzheimer's. So I saw firsthand my mom deteriorate, a brilliant, brilliant woman who just, unfortunately, this is my diagnoses. She never drank water. I never saw her drink a glass of water. And I believe she dehydrated her brain. I also believe that she was way too sedentary in her last 20 years, 30 years. maybe even 40 years of life. She was a tennis champion. My father was a tennis champion, and my brother was a Wimbledon junior champion in 1960. So I come from a family of athletes, but my dad died at 80, but he died from coronary disease. And my mom died with the Alzheimer's and old age, of course. But my dad was compos mentis. He was totally with it, and it was a completely different thing. He was far more savvy about health than my mom. And I watched these two people in my life that were so important to me, and two incredible, amazing human beings, have different routes in terms of their ending. So I've become very invested in Alzheimer community, in the Parkinson's community, working with them the last 14 years, both communities. I've been working somewhat with the Alzheimer's Research and Prevention Foundation. That's a research organization. And it's just been so interesting to learn more, because I only discovered my brain, that I had a brain, 14 years ago. I tell people that, and I use that in my lectures, and that's true, because we don't see our brain. We can see when we have wrinkles, or when we're getting a few more pounds on our belly, and a little more visceral fat there, and a little more visceral fat there, or on the butt, or whatever, but you don't see your brain. And the brain controls everything, and I'm obsessed with it. So I'm hoping to talk more about that in another session. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting us, and look out for more.